Hare Krishna. Here we are in Queen Mary's Rose Garden. There's a waterfall behind us. Hope you can see it. Oh, sitting on these stones will be interesting. Alright, it's Canto 2, Chapter 1, Text 32, Questions by Vidura. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 32. Please tell me whether Akrura, the son of Swapalka, is doing well. He is a faultless soul, surrendered unto the personality of Godhead. He once lost his mental equilibrium due to his ecstasy of transcendental love, and fell down on the dust of a road which was marked with the footprints of Lord Krishna. Purport. When Akrura came to Vrindavan in search of Krishna, he saw the footprints of the Lord on the dust of Nandagram, and at once fell on them in ecstasy of transcendental love. This ecstasy is possible for a devotee who is fully absorbed in incessant thoughts of Krishna. Such a pure devotee of the Lord is naturally faultless because he is always associated with the supreme pure personality of Godhead. Constant thought of the Lord is the antiseptic method for keeping oneself free from the infectious contamination of the material qualities. The pure devotee of the Lord is always in company with the Lord by thinking of him. Yet, in the particular context of time and place, their transcendental emotions take a different turn, and this breaks the mental equilibrium of the devotee. Lord Chaitanya displayed the typical example of transcendental ecstasy as we can understand from the life of this incarnation of God.
I like that phrase. The constant thought of the Lord is the antiseptic method for keeping oneself free from the infectious contamination of material qualities. Very nice. Okay, text 33. As the Vedas are the reservoir of sacrificial purposes, so the daughter of King Devak Boj conceived the Supreme Personality of Godhead in her womb, as did the mother of the demigods. Is she, Devaki, doing well? Purport. The Vedas are full of transcendental knowledge and spiritual values, and thus Devaki, the mother of Lord Krishna, conceived the Lord in her womb as the personified meaning of the Vedas. There is no difference between the Vedas and the Lord. The Vedas aim at the understanding of the Lord, and the Lord is the Vedas personified. Devaki is compared to the meaningful Vedas, and the Lord to their purpose personified.
Text 34. May I inquire whether Aniruddha is doing well? He is the fulfiller of all the desires of the pure devotees, and has been considered from yore to be the cause of the Rig Veda, the creator of the mind, and the fourth plenary expansion of Vishnu. Purport. Adi Chaturbuj, the original expansions from Baladev, are Vasudev, Shankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. All of them are Vishnu Tattvas, or non-different personalities of Godhead. In the incarnation of Sri Ram, all these different expansions appeared for particular pastimes. Lord Ram is the original Vasudev, and his brothers were Shankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. Aniruddha is also the cause of Mahavishnu, from whose breathing the Rig Veda appeared. All this is nicely explained in the Markandeya Purana. In the incarnation of Lord Krishna, Aniruddha appeared as the son of the Lord. Lord Krishna in Dwarka is the Vasudeva expansion of the original group. The original Lord Krishna never leaves Goloka Vrindavan. All the plenary expansions are one and the same Vishnu Tattva, and there is no difference in their potency.
Any thoughts?
God is great.
God is good. Let us thank him for the food. That's what he used to say.
Okay.
Lucy, do you know her?
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Lucy, Bhavani Durga. Hare Krishna.
A sober one, so text 35. O sober one, others such as Ridika, Charudeshna, Gada, and the son of Satyabhama, who accept Lord Krishna as the soul of the self and thus follow his path without deviation, are they well? Text 36. Also let me inquire whether Maharaj Yudhisthira is now maintaining the kingdom according to religious principles and with respect for the path of religion. Formerly, Duryodhana was burning with envy because Yudhisthira was being protected by the arms of Krishna and Arjuna, as if they were his own arms. Purport. Maharaj Yudhisthira was the emblem of religion. When he was ruling his kingdom with the help of Lord Krishna and Arjuna, the opulence of his kingdom surpassed all imaginations of the opulence of the kingdom of heaven. His actual arms were Lord Krishna and Arjuna, and thus he surpassed everyone's opulence. Duryodhana being envious of his opulence planned so many schemes to put Yudhisthira into difficulty, and at last the battle of Kurukshetra was brought about. After the battle of Kurukshetra, Maharaj Yudhisthira was again able to rule his legitimate kingdom, and he reinstated the principles of honor and respect for religion. That is the beauty of a kingdom ruled by a pious king like Maharaj Yudhisthira.
Text 37. Please tell me whether the unconquerable being, who is like a cobra, has released his long-cherished anger upon the sinners. The field of battle could not tolerate even the wonderful playing of his club when he stepped on the path. Helper. Vidura knew the strength of Bhim. Whenever Bhim was on the battlefield, his steps on the path and the wonderful playing of his club were unbearable for the enemy. Powerful Bhim did not take steps against the sons of Dhritarashtra for a long time. Vidura's inquiry was whether he had yet released his anger, which was like that of a suffering cobra. When a cobra releases its venom after long-cherished anger, its victim cannot survive.
Interesting. There you go. So, seems everyone knew Bhima's ferocious anger against Duryodhana, especially. So
Yeah.
and see, Vidura left before all of this happened. So
Yeah.
he was just eager to hear what had gone on, and had this happened, he knew it was just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Okay, text 38. Please tell me whether Arjuna, whose bow bears the name Gandiva and who is always famous amongst the chariot warriors for vanquishing his enemies, is doing well. He once satisfied Lord Shiva by covering him with arrows when Shiva came as an unidentified false hunter. Purport. Lord Shiva tested Arjuna's strength by picking a quarrel with him over a hunted boar. He confronted Arjuna in the false dress of a hunter, and Arjuna covered him with arrows until Lord Shiva was satisfied with Arjuna's fighting. He offered Arjuna the Pashupati weapon and blessed him. Here Vidura inquired about the great warrior's well-being.
Yeah. Text 39. Are the twin brothers who are protected by their brothers doing well? Just as the eye is always protected by the eyelid, they are protected from the sons of Pritha, who snatched back their rightful kingdom from the hands of their enemy Duryodhana. Just as Garuda snatched nectar from the mouth of Indra, the thunderbolt carrier. Purport. Indra, the king of heaven, carries a thunderbolt in his hand and is very strong, yet Garuda, the carrier of Lord Vishnu, was able to snatch nectar from his mouth. Similarly, Duryodhana was as strong as the king of heaven, and still the sons of Pritha, the Pandavas, were able to snatch away their kingdom from Duryodhana. Both Garuda and the Paratas are pet devotees of the Lord, and thus it was possible for them to face such strong enemies.
Vidura's inquiry was about the youngest brothers of the Pandavas, namely Nakul and Sahadev. These twin brothers were sons of Madri, the stepmother of the other Pandavas. But although they were stepbrothers, because Kunti took charge of them after the departure of Madri with her husband Maharaj Pandu, Nakul and Sahadev were as good as the other three Pandavas, namely Yudhisthira, Bhima, and Arjuna. The 5 brothers are known in the world as regular brothers. The 3 elder Pandavas took care of the younger brothers just as the eyelid takes care of the eye. Vidura was anxious to know whether after winning back their own kingdom from the hands of Duryodhan, the younger brothers were still living happily under the care of the elder brothers.
Text 40. O my lord, is Pritha still living? She only lived for the sake of her fatherless children. Otherwise, it was impossible for her to live without King Pandu, who was the greatest commander and who alone conquered the 4 directions simply with the help of a second bow. Purport. A faithful wife cannot live without her lord, the husband, and therefore all widows used to voluntarily embrace the burning fire which consumed the dead husband.
You gonna do that?
Not really. I'll find a way to continue.
I found a way.
This system was very common in India because all the wives were chaste and faithful to their husbands. Later on, with the advent of the age of Kali, the wives gradually began to be less adherent to their husbands. And the voluntary embrace of the fire by the widows became a thing of the past. Very recently, the system was abolished since the voluntary system had become a forcible social custom.
Yeah, basically what it means is the families of the husbands were pushing the widows into the fire.
Terrible.
When Maharaj Pandu died, both his wives, namely Kunti and Madri, were prepared to embrace the fire. But Madri requested Kunti to live for the sake of the younger children, the 5 Pandavas. This was agreed upon by Kunti at the added request of Vyasadeva. In spite of her great bereavement, Kunti decided to live, not to enjoy life in the absence of her husband, but only to give protection to the children. This incident is referred to here by Vidura because he knew all the facts about his sister-in-law, Kunti Devi. It is understood that Maharaj Pandu was a great warrior and that he alone, with the help of bow and arrow, could conquer the world's 4 directions. In the absence of such a husband, it was almost impossible for Kunti to live on even as a widow, but she had to do it for the sake and then there's some parrots as well. For the sake of the 5 children. So basically, she didn't live on to get remarried and enjoy the kingdom, even though the husband is gone and all that stuff. She basically more or less stuck around just to look after the children. So, very honorable.
Text 41. O gentle one, I simply lament for he, Dhritarashtra, who rebelled against his brother after death. By him I was driven out of my own house, although I am his sincere well-wisher, because he accepted the line of action adopted by his own sons. Purport. Vidura did not ask about the welfare of his elder brother, because there was no chance of his well-being, only news of his gliding down to hell. Vidura was a sincere well-wisher for Dhritarashtra, and he had a thought about him in the corner of his heart. He lamented that Dhritarashtra could rebel against the sons of his dead brother Pandu, and that he could drive him, Vidura, out of his own house on the dictation of his crooked sons. In spite of these actions, Vidura never became an enemy of Dhritarashtra, but continued to be his well-wisher. And at the last stage of Dhritarashtra's life, it was Vidura only who proved to be his real friend. Such is the behavior of a Vaishnava like Vidura. He desires all good, even for his enemies.
Yeah, so this is really nice point, that this is true Vaishnava, that even someone is quote-unquote considered your enemy, but still you wish the best for them and you want to see somehow for them to be successful. This isn't something that's so easy to emulate, but it's a truth, you know. They say a Vaishnava even welcomes an enemy into the home and offers them water and a seat and a nice kind words, you know. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's true. That's how my parents were. They welcomed everyone. It's true. Whoever knocked on the door, they were never left without being well fed.
Text 42. I am not astonished at this, having traveled over the world without being seen by others. The activities of the personality of Godhead, which are like those of a man in this mortal world, are bewildering to others. But I know of his greatness by his grace, and thus I am happy in all respects. Although he was the brother of Dhritarashtra, Vidura was completely different. By the grace of Lord Krishna, he was not foolish like his brother, and thus his brother's association could not influence him. Important point. If one is actually strong in Krishna consciousness, then bad association doesn't affect. But if we're weak, then we can easily be affected and turned by those who are not in good consciousness. Dhritarashtra and his materialistic sons wanted to falsely lord it over the world by dint of their own strength. The Lord encouraged them in this, and thus they became more and more bewildered. But Vidura wanted to achieve sincere devotional service of the Lord, and therefore became a soul absolutely surrendered to the absolute personality of Godhead. He could realize this in the progress of his pilgrim's journey, and thus he was freed from all doubts. He was not at all sorry to be bereft of his hearth and home, because he now had experienced that dependence on the mercy of the Lord is a greater freedom than so-called freedom at home. Wow, this is a really powerful statement. So to leave home and travel to places of pilgrimage, basically like Vanaprast or sannyas, and just being dependent on the mercy of the Lord is a greater freedom than being at home thinking you have the freedom to do whatever you like. A person should not be in the renounced order of life unless he is firmly convinced of being protected by the Lord. This stage of life is explained in Bhagavad Gita as abhayam sattva samshuddhi. Every living entity is factually completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord. But unless one is in the pure state of existence, he cannot be established in his position. This stage of dependence is called the sattva samudhi, or purification of one's existence. The result of such purification is exhibited in fearlessness. A devotee of the Lord who is called Narayana Pada is never afraid of anything, because he is always aware of the fact that the Lord protects him in all circumstances with this conviction. Vidura traveled alone, and he was not seen or recognized by any friend or foe. Thus he enjoyed freedom of life without obligation. Sounds wonderful. To the many duties of the world. The time is coming soon.
When Lord Sri Krishna was personally present in the mortal world in his eternal blissful form of Shyam Sundar, those who were not pure devotees of the Lord could not recognize him or know his glories. Ava jananti mam muda manusintanum asritam. Bhagavad Gita 9:11. He is always bewildering to the non-devotees, but he is always seen by the devotees by dint of their pure devotional service to him.
Should we read one more?
Yeah.
Okay.
Despite... Oh, yeah, go on.
Well, thank you very much. So we'll just read one more. This is the last one, text 43. Despite his being the Lord and being always willing to relieve the distress of sufferers, he, Krishna, refrained from killing the Kurus, although they committed all sorts of sins, and although he saw other kings constantly agitating the earth by their strong military movements, carried out under the dictation of three kinds of false pride. Purport. As declared in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord appears in the mortal world to execute his much-needed mission of killing the miscreants and giving protection to the suffering faithful. In spite of that mission, Lord Krishna tolerated the insult to Draupadi by the Kurus and the injustices perpetrated against the Pandavas, as well as insults to himself. The question may be raised, why did he tolerate such injustices and insults in his presence? Why did he not chastise the Kurus immediately? When Draupadi was insulted in the assembly of the Kurus by their attempt to see her naked in the presence of all, the Lord protected Draupadi by supplying an unlimited length of clothing. But he did not chastise the insulting party immediately. Thus, silence of the Lord did not mean, however, that he excused the offenses of the Kurus. There were many other kings on earth who had become very proud of three kinds of possessions. So these are the three kinds of pride that were mentioned earlier. Wealth, education, and followers. And they were constantly agitating the earth by movements of military strength. The Lord was just waiting to get them together on the battlefield of Kurukshetra and kill them all at one time, just to make a shortcut of his killing mission. Krishna. Godless kings are heads of state when puffed up by advancement of material strength and, when puffed up by advancement of material wealth, education, and increase of population, always make a show of military strength and give trouble to the innocent. When Lord Krishna was personally present, there were many such kings all over the world, and he thus arranged for the battle of Kurukshetra. Would you like to read to the end?
In his manifestation of Vishwarup, the Lord expressed his mission of killing as follows. I have willingly descended on the earth in my capacity of inexorable time, in order to decrease the unwanted population. I shall finish all those who have assembled here except you, the Pandavas. This killing does not wait for you to take part in. It is already arranged. All will be killed by me. If you want to become famous as the hero of the battlefield and thus enjoy the booty of war, then, O Savyasachi, just become the immediate cause of this killing and thus take control. I've already killed all the great warriors, Bhishma, Drona, Jayadratha, Karna, many other great generals. Do not worry. Fight the battle and be famous as a great hero.
Carry on.
The Lord always wants to see his devotee as a hero of some episode which he himself performs. He wants to see his devotee and friend Arjuna as the hero of the battle of Kurukshetra, and thus he waited for all the miscreants of the world to assemble. That and nothing else is the explanation of his waiting.
So the Lord has his plan. We may not always see it. We may wonder sometimes, how does he allow such injustice to happen? But then he sorts it all out.
He's getting everything in place
Okay.
behind the scenes.
Okay, so just a reminder, almost a week from today, well, today's Saturday, so a week from tomorrow, will be Gaur Purnim, so the auspicious occasion of the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. If anyone would like a set of Sri Chaitanya Charitamritas, please let us know. We can make an arrangement for you. And otherwise, thank you for joining in. Especially thank you to Lucy Bhavani Durga, who has stuck it out the whole session. Wonderful to have you with us.
Welcome.
Take care and thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.